Our vision is very simple. We want to honor all veterans and active military. We want to educate the public about the sacrifices that are made by those that serve, including those in the home front, which are the families of those serving. We want to inspire a sense of patriotism and an appreciation for those that are serving, that are protecting our rights and freedoms. And lastly, to preserve the artifacts which have been entrusted to our care.
We're here to serve veterans and their families and those who want to hear those stories. And we can't do that unless we can provide a secure environment.
We have noticed an increased, I would say, delinquency of things that are happening in the off hours and during operations. We have noticed a number of graffiti that has been placed on some of the artifacts, on some of the monuments. We have noticed a increasing amount of disrespect for the monuments.
We have large open grounds that are not fenced in, so the public at any time of day or night can access those grounds. So we had done a site survey and factors that include line of sight, the limits of what the camera can provide, and it's a very robust system, so that was great to learn. Those were all factors in how we determine the layout. The density of groups of people, where they tend to gravitate. Criminal history in the park, we wanted to make sure that we had coverage there.
When we did our research, we found that Hanwha Vision certainly was a leader in the industry. They also came highly recommended by our security consultants, which was Forseti Group.
One of the elements that we were looking at and trying to understand from the risk perspective and the public safety perspective, how could we keep the open and welcoming location for us and still be able to have the public safety at top of mind?
We utilize Hanwha in a lot of our projects. Their new 4K multi-sensors are first class, and as far as 360-degree coverage, with the ability to monitor activities on the boardwalk, it was the first choice.
It's that opportunity to have one camera that essentially is being broken out into multiple sectors and having that full, almost 360-degree coverage at that point. And then that's giving us visibility by also being able to be open and welcoming and keeping out of the public way. Right? It's not imposing, it's not intimidating.
One of the primary factors that we had to take into account when designing this project was our inability to be able to cable something like this. The cost of buried cable, the cost to run cable at such a long distance with switches in the middle would have rendered this project almost completely impossible. We incorporated wireless network cards into all the poles, so all of these cameras feed directly back to the Hanwha NVR on the building themselves without using any sort of cabling.
As far as technology is concerned, the NDAA was an important component. We wanted to make sure that the cameras themselves were secure. Secondly, that the cameras could be used to positively identify someone who had done something, either damage or acts of violence, which we've had. Working with law enforcement, being able to supply usable information to identify a suspect. In the past, we had no capacity to do that. We've now changed that with the quality of cameras that we're using, and we can share that, again, to produce an outcome that's satisfying to everybody as far as finding a culprit and holding them accountable.
One of the nice things too about Hanwha and the 360-degree cameras covering such a large area is when it comes to playing back footage and monitoring activity after the fact, because they are broken out into 4 sensors, you're not necessarily going to have to go back and look over a large amount of footage. You can pick the area that you're looking for exactly, go directly to that sensor within the camera that we have in that area, and you can pull footage much easier that way.
What's often overlooked is the physical assets and physical infrastructure and how it can be impacted positively with AI. And I think we've shown that throughout this project.
You can use key identifiers, whether it's the color of someone's shirt, or they're wearing a backpack, or there's some physical feature that we can then go through and then locate that person through the system itself.
From our standpoint, operations standpoint, we feel a greater sense of security knowing that the cameras are there, that the cameras will help us identify those people or things that we would take notice of, and hopefully prevent them in the future.
We absolutely would see an increase in the value and number of cameras that we can use.
This system that we're putting in place will not only meet their needs today, but we'll be able to grow with this as we evolve.